Since the earthquake, Wickham School has been at the centre of a long battle between the Department of Education, the council and local residents. After engineering reports stated the school was structurally damaged, the department transferred the 29 students to nearby schools and ordered the building's demolition. But residents were not so easily convinced, and neither was Newcastle Council. After being given permission from Education Minister Virginia Chadwick, Council last night agreed to seek expressions of interest in the site on the understanding that if they were not forthcoming, the building would be demolished immediately. Today it was revealed that architects Eckford Johnson have approached the department to buy the site with the intention of restoring the building and setting up a number of professional office suites, possibly for the firm's own use. It could be the building's last chance, but one which Eckford Johnson believes is well and truly worthwhile. According to a spokesman from the firm, the building, although badly damaged, is a viable proposition.
The sweet sound of James Morrison's trumpet is finally starting to ring bells at the cash register. After thousands of shows and 5 solo albums, the jazzman should collect his first gold record in a matter of days, and insists the future's so bright he just has to wear shades.
Well, I've never had a gold album before, and to get an instrumental album onto the charts is difficult, especially a jazz instrumental album, so it's going to be great.
The secret of his success lies not in any radical change of style, but rather in a long overdue opening of the Australian music mind.
In the past you had to be a jazz lover or into rock or into classical. People are starting to just become music lovers, and they might go and see Bruce Springsteen Monday and James Morrison Wednesday and the opera on the weekend, which is great, and as you say, it's opening up a whole new audience.
These days, Morrison tours the world with musical immortals like B.B. King and Ray Charles, and appears on albums for people like John Farnham and Icehouse. Still, he hasn't forgotten his roots and says he's looking forward to his Sunday night appointment at the Western Suburbs Leagues Club.
Someone said to me the other day, "What are you doing here?" I was in Byron Bay, and I just returned from New York, and they said, New York, Paris, how come you come to the small? And I said, well, it's a completely different audience, and it's great for me, and I think I'll always enjoy going to places and playing to, people just like myself.
Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News. Buchanan Court was the target of the offenders, who apparently backed a van into this driveway before forcing their way into a common room. 2 lounges and 2 single seats were stolen, as were 2 coffee tables and a floor rug. The cold-hearted theft will make life just a little more uncomfortable for the 20 frail and elderly residents of the centre. Police investigations are continuing.
It was 12 months ago that the HEDC was launched, at the time just another name to add to the list of similar promotional organisations.
When we started, everyone said, ho-hum, another study, another thick book that's going to go in people's bottom drawers full of motherhood statements, etc. And what we're pleased about, though, is that people are starting to see that it's not that. It is nuts and bolts, and it is identifying real opportunities and the real strengths of the hunter.
David Boyd, Council Chairman, insists it's done far more than just survive this first year. It's thrived. Probably a key reason, the 9 men who sit on its board, all leaders in hunter industry, government and education. Together they have worked on drafting a strategy to be released next year that they believe matches the hunter's strengths and still acknowledges its weaknesses.
The hunter has such a low percentage of its population born outside of this area. We have very low migration factor. Our children tend to leave school earlier than most.
Probably one of the best signs of that grassroots attitude is the council's faith in the potential of agriculture. While the rest of the nation is willing to turn its back on industries like wool, the HEDC believes its potential is boundless.
There are two or three things that are really starting to loom very large. One of them is food production and the other one is wool processing, because these are off the back, if you don't mind the pun, of our natural resources.
The Mackie jet trainer was on a routine training mission when it's thought one wing of the jet separated from the fuselage, sending the plane into a tailspin. Although the pilot, Flight Lieutenant Russell Page, was ejected from the craft, his body was found the next day during a sea search off the coast near Foster. Since then, the Navy and civilian underwater salvage crews have conducted a search for the plane's wreckage, a search that ended when the captain of the HMAS Brolga reported the sonar equipment had been located in the major portion of the wreckage. An RAAF spokesman, Wing Commander Ross Kelly, said two large pieces of wreckage were found 1 kilometre apart in the water approximately 66 fathoms deep. Recovery of the wreckage has already started. Although it's a new beginning for the municipal building, today's stone laying was also a look back at history. When the former structure was demolished after suffering irreparable damage in the quake, workers saved its historic clock tower, which had been a part of the Beaumont streetscape since 1919. When work on the new two-storey building is completed, that tower will be returned, facing the street. Lord Mayor John McNaughton had the honour of unveiling the foundation stone, another sign, he said, of Newcastle Council's efforts to save the city's heritage.
Council has got a track record for preserving old buildings, to see that they're kept and wherever possible refurbished.
To be completed within 12 months, the building will feature retail shops on the ground floor and office suites on the first. A small plaza will be built beside it. It's actually the third time Hamilton will have a new municipal building. The first, opened in 1892, was knocked down in 1920 and replaced by a bigger premises, which stood until the quake.
Despite an extreme fire danger, the anticipated inferno thankfully didn't eventuate. Fire brigades responded immediately to any reports of smoke. At Wall's End, a blaze which swept over Billygoat Hill is thought to have been deliberately lit. The flames devoured metre-high grasses coming dangerously close to houses on Gunambi Street. Residents were heartened by the prompt work of firefighters.
The fire guys got a line up from the motor and just really walked the fence line and protected all of our back fences very, very well. So it was a great effort on their part.
Elsewhere, local brigades were called to Whitebridge, where a stubborn blaze has broken out several times over the past few days. This time, fatigued firefighters have called police to help them track down another arsonist.
Somebody has lit them, obviously. This is a bad area. This is a notorious area for fires to get away from us with a norwesterly breeze. We're expecting actually a southerly later on, and we need to get in and put this fire out fairly quickly.
Late this afternoon, blustery winds had died down and temperatures were dropping to a tolerable level after reaching temperatures that are by no means uncommon for this time of year. However, the official Hunter maximum of 41 recorded at Maryville was just a fraction off the record.
Fire officers said when they arrived at the blaze at about 10 p.m, flames were rolling over the roof of the Oban nursing home next door to the tyre service. The intense heat from the burning rubber blistered paint from the exterior of the nursing home, while acrid smoke filled the building. As firemen from 5 brigades, aided by a foam unit from Tyers Hill, fought the blaze, nursing home staff and nearby residents woke the elderly patients in the wing nearest the fire and began to move them out. A fleet of ambulances rushed to the scene from Newcastle, fearing a full-scale evacuation of all 68 patients in the home would be necessary. However, firemen gained the upper hand over the fire in about 30 minutes, and by 11 o'clock, patients were being moved back to their beds. All were checked by a doctor, but none had suffered any ill effects. There was widespread praise for the efforts of the fire officers because burning tyres are notoriously difficult to extinguish. Jim Sullivan, NBN News.
There's normally nothing difficult about changing a tyre, but when the wheel in question weighs more than 4 cars or 6.5 tonnes, things can become complicated. This machine has been designed to change the tyres on 275-tonne dump trucks used in open-cut mines in the Hunter Valley. The technology is not new, but the size of the tyre changer is. In the past, smaller trucks have strained under the effort of removing and then refitting these massive tyres. This truck, however, does it with ease.
It does a massive operation very, very easily this time. It's been a problem as the tyres have got bigger through the time to be able to handle them, but now it just does it with a lot of ease. That's why we went for a crane base that was as big as what this is.
The hydraulic arm of the crane is worked by remote control from the waist of the operator.
It just clamps the tyre, it can move it out, it can rotate it at 360 degrees, tilt it in any way whatsoever so the operator can put it exactly on the truck where he wants it all the time.
It used to take up to 2.5 hours to change one tyre. With this machine it takes just 15 minutes. Marathon Tyres will contract the crane to Mount Thorley mine, where it will service more than 150 dump trucks.
Details were sketchy on that wet December 22nd morning. The first ambulance officers arrived soon after 3:30 at the narrow section of the Pacific Highway at Clybucker Flat. They were overwhelmed by the number of casualties in and around the buses. Dawn revealed a rescuer's nightmare, with all available services there. Newcastle paramedics David Higgins and Jeff Mulborough, along with pilot Keith Stewart and crewman Graham Nickerson, flew north on the Westpac rescue helicopter.
Initially they thought there was only minor injuries and we possibly weren't required, but they still dispatched us anyway.
Their arrival erased any doubt.
A scene of disbelief. We sort of flew over the scene and landed to the south of the accident, and walking up the highway toward the 2 buses on either side of the road there was just lines of tarpaulins with obvious deceased persons underneath. And I don't think the full magnitude hit us till we actually climbed up a ladder of the Trans-City coach and actually looked inside as to what confronted the people there prior to us arriving.
While the paramedics worked alongside other rescuers to free people still trapped in the wreckage, the helicopter lifted the seriously injured from the scene and transferred others from local hospitals to Sydney and Newcastle for specialist care. A memorial service for the victims will be held in Kempsey tomorrow.
We feel it's appropriate that we attend as well, both on a work-related basis and on a personal basis to, just to convey our thoughts and whatever to the families of the victims.
The Super Sedans will be contesting the second last round of the ISP Sedan Masters Series, as well as test team selection to meet the Americans on January the 2nd. Masters leader Bob Brewer from Raymond Terrace is hanging on to a 2-point lead from Belmont's Don McEwen. Both are being hard-pressed by Ron Pine from Cessnock, who's moved into third place following his brilliant third-round win last week. John Brown of Sandgate will be doubling up in a modified rod. He's set to win his first major title in the East Coast Championships against a top-class lineup. This will include former national champion Tony Hopping from Sydney and local club champion Colin O'Toole of Toronto. The state's highway police are in the 5th day of Operation Safe Arrival. The high-profile campaign is a familiar part of Christmas motoring, but this year police in Newcastle, Maitland and Gosford areas are reporting significant improvements in driver behaviour.
I believe there's a change in attitude to some extent. We're still using the same number of staff, so obviously we see the motoring public as, at last, they're seeing the right way.
Newcastle is to be a trial region for the new Drink Drive counselling program for motorists charged with high-range offences. Local police welcome the choice.
Anything that supports the Drink Drive campaign certainly is a step in the right direction. You see, over the last 3 months there's been over 200 persons arrested and charged with higher range PCAs, so obviously there is a need to address this problem in this particular area.
Police conducted 3,862 RBT tests in the Newcastle region, charging 35 people with drink-drive offences. Maitland and Gosford patrols recorded similar figures. Newcastle Patrol registered 15 crashes from December 22nd until midnight yesterday.
In that small figure there was 3 alcohol-related crashes and 2 of those were in the higher range category, so it really highlights there is a need to address that particular issue.
Heavy vehicles also behaved well. Only 4 were charged with speeding, while tourist coaches were double that amount. The Driver Reviver program is also having an impact on driver behaviour. The stopover at Freeman's Waterhole is the busiest in the state, and business is likely to be brisk as motorists take to the highway after enjoying Christmas at home. Holiday traffic on the waterways is also expected to pick up over the next few weeks. Water Police carried out a spot check on vessels this morning and found all were fitted with correct safety equipment. The MSB Waterways section is also carrying out a holiday offensive in preparation for new passenger loading regulations which come into force in the new year. As well as the 4 houses totally destroyed at those 2 places, several other dwellings were damaged, some quite severely, and other people lost cars, boats and other personal property.
Even the local bushfire brigade lost a tanker when a brake failure caused it to crash off the road and the raging fire quickly overwhelmed it. The insurance industry will be approached to financially assist the brigade in view of the tremendous work done to minimise damage throughout the district. Donations to the Mayor's appeal can be made at the Westpac Bank, local radio stations and newspapers, and the Gosford City Council building itself. The Red Cross, the Smith family and the Salvation Army are also assisting families affected by the fires. Reminding people that the danger is far from over, there is a total fire ban on the Central Coast today, and tomorrow conditions are expected to be even worse, with the temperature in the mid-30s and the humidity very low. Efforts were being made late today to snuff out the remnants of Sunday's outbreaks by waterbombing from the air an otherwise inaccessible area near Wonderbine, west of Woy Woy.
Local bushfire units are on full alert after fires raged for 4 days through the Upper Hunter.
Any sign of any smoke anywhere?
We can't see any here. Mr. Hindmarch has gone over onto that Wallity top to have a look up through there. It was smoking earlier, but there's nothing there at the moment.
At Glenbourne, Rookel and Dangerfield, it's estimated 15,000 hectares of prime grazing and farming land has been torched by the fires. Near the wall of Glenbourne Dam, houses miraculously escaped damage, with fires skirting garden fences. Nearby, an old hay shed was burnt to the ground. More than 20 cattle tragically perished in the flames.
The wind just got behind it and just brought it over, and it jumped the road over on the Glenbourne Road, then it jumped the river. And then just sort of came across here with the wind behind it, and there's just nothing we could do to stop it.
It's the third major fire in 4 weeks and the worst outbreak in 30 years. Local farmers say it's a disaster they'll work through. Some cattle have been moved to neighbouring properties, but in the main, farmers will have to buy their way out of trouble with fodder and hay. More than 700 kilometres of fencing will have to be replaced. Amongst the gloom, there were some stories of good fortune. Crops of wheat had been harvested just days before the blaze, and Tyrrell's Upper Hunter property at Glenbourne suffered only minor losses to this season's grape harvest. If the 40-degree heat and strong winds continue, the possibility of another fire outbreak is a real threat. And that means property owners' plans for a Christmas break must be postponed till the first heavy rains.
Well, I think most of the people are that conscious of the fires that they won't be game to go away anywhere.